This tutorial is going to show you how to use the Paste from Spreadsheet feature, which you find on the Edit menu or on the pop-up menu like this right here under the normal paste. This has several features, but generally you can use it fairly automatically. For example, on the left I have a spreadsheet with some data filled in. On the right is the Statistics 101 program. So let's say I wanted to copy these into the Statistics 101, so I can just copy, and then if I just do a normal paste, you can see what it looks like. What it's copying into it is the data from the spreadsheet, with the delimiter being by default from the spreadsheet being the tab. So I'm going to delete that by using Control Z to undo it. And now I'm going to paste from Spreadsheet. And you can see what it did is it converted all that, including the titles, into let commands. That is, column 1 equals the data that was in column 1, and so on. Now I can also come over here and select the row titles if I want to do that, if I'm looking at my data as rows instead of columns. And I can do a copy and a paste from Spreadsheet. And now I've got all the rows, including the titles, set up. And those all work. If I click the check mark to check the syntax, it says the program syntax is okay. So all my data is converted over to the Statistics 101 program. Notice that any spaces in the title have been replaced by underscores. Okay, now if you select both, the entire table including both rows and column titles, when you try to paste that in, you do a copy and then paste from Spreadsheet, you get this notice that it says it's missing one or more titles. Now that could be row titles or column titles, and in this case we're missing one of each. I mean, if you look at it as columns, you're missing the column title. If you look at it as rows, you're missing a row title. But the problem is that you can't include both column titles and row titles. So the best thing to do is to just cancel out here and reselect. So you make a choice as to selecting as rows or as titles. Now if you don't have titles, that's okay too. Let's say we just select the data and we do our copy, and I'm going to clear this page, and now I do paste from Spreadsheet, and since there aren't any titles to give it cues, it doesn't know whether to look at it as rows or as columns, so you can choose one or the other. If I choose rows, then it creates row names for each row. Now I can do the same thing. Without recopying, I can paste the same thing in as columns. And here we've got the 3 columns with names made up for them. Notice that the names for the columns are sequential, and they originally started from 1, so I used them before to create 3 columns apparently, and so it started at 4. If you want to restart the numbering, you can hold down Shift and right click, and it says, now it says reset row and column counts. If you can't remember, you can use the tooltip. So now if I say reset the column counts, and now I'm going to say, okay, let's paste it as columns. And now we've got it starting at 1, 2, 3. This paste from spreadsheet feature automatically decides which delimiter is being used in your data. So here we had the tab as a delimiter, but you could have others. If you had a comma separated file, you could copy that in and paste it in. I'll show that next. Okay, here's the same data in a comma separated format. First I'm going to clear this. Now if I select this, I'm just going to select the rows, select the row titles and skip the column titles at first. Do a copy and then paste from spreadsheet, and that works just fine. It figured out that the delimiter was commas and it set up accordingly. Now if I just, in this kind of format, it's hard to, I can't just select columns. If I want to handle this as columns, then I would need to delete the titles of the rows. And since that's a little bit harder, it might be easier to just go back to the original data spreadsheet and output just the data without those the row titles. So for example, I could come into my spreadsheet here, make a selection of just the data, copy it, switch to another empty sheet, paste it, move it up here to the corner, save it as CSV, and then open it with Notepad. Now we've got just the data, and we can treat it either as columns or as rows. So I do a copy, oops, and let me delete these, and I'll paste from spreadsheet. And now, since there aren't any row or column headers, it asks me which way to go. So let's go to columns, and there we've got our 3 columns. And if I wanted to do it as rows, I would just come back here and say, okay, it's rows. So that's an overview of using the paste from spreadsheet feature, and I hope you find it useful. Thanks for watching.